If Jason Statham doesn't punch a shark, is it really worth it? Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. No, Jason Statham doesn't get to punch a megalodon in this, sadly. But he gets to fight one and it's pretty cool. I just went and saw the MEG and I have rather mixed feelings about this movie. There are some very interesting and okay parts, and then there's everything else. I was very, very excited for this movie from the trailers. Every trailer that came out, I was like, yes, another giant monster destroying something movie. And honestly, it's not really a giant monster destroying anything. It's a giant shark swimming in kind of eating people. Spoiler alert, because that's really all a giant shark can do. It's basically just a giant Jaws. There are a couple scenes where it feels like they're trying to, I don't know, pay homage to Jaws, because it honestly blatantly feels like they just ripped Jaws off. It's a B movie. You gotta expect that. Going into this, I knew it probably was not going to be good. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew everything, not only from the trailer, but from the posters. From everything I've seen about this movie, I knew exactly what was going to happen throughout the entire thing, before I went into it, during it, and afterwards. I was like, okay, that was the movie. And I'm not disappointed by it, but it's not like it's the best movie I've ever seen. So let me break a little bit of this down for you. First and foremost, I'm going to go with some of the things that weren't the best. That way, when I give you some of the things that I like, you may want to go see this, because it is a very fun experience. I will give you that. I did only see it in digital. I could have gone to see it in Dolby. Actually, maybe it was Real D. But I didn't want to wait another hour for that screening, so I just went to see it in regular. And it was pretty fun still. It would have been really fun to be able to see this like on a huge, big 3D screen with just like an amazing surround sound. Some of the things that wasn't my absolute favorite that make this a very bad movie. It is, at its roots, a very bad movie. Like, if you were going technical on this, if you're going very technical, stripping everything down, the story is very straightforward, very stereotypical of a normal monster movie, or a movie where it's almost like a apocalypse movie, or a disaster movie, I guess is a better word for it. But it's not, it's just a monster movie. And the story basically goes the way you think it will go. I'm not going to give any spoilers. I don't like to do that in these videos, but it is basically what you think will happen is going to happen. You can probably predict at least 3 scenes ahead of where you are while you're watching this. I even left during probably one of the most emotional scenes in the movie, because they do try to do that. They do try to bring in the emotions, and I left to go to the bathroom, which I never do, but I did have a large soda, so I felt like I probably could leave now, and I think I came back and I didn't really miss anything that I didn't already know was going to happen. It's a kind of movie like that. It's just, it feels like a lot of the plot points are very forced or choppy, and they're not really thought all the way through, besides just getting from point A to point B, or getting to catch the shark. So things like that, it's not a technically well-written movie. The other thing that I'm not like super fond of in this, which I came to expect that anyways, is the acting of, and this is going to sound very, very bad, and I don't say it for the reasons that you're probably thinking. The Chinese actors their acting felt very stiff to me. They just didn't feel like they were emoting enough, or they were saying their lines very weird. But the only reason I think that they were doing that is because of the language barrier. This is their second language. They're speaking mostly in English. There is some times where they will be speaking to one another and they will use their native language. And those scenes were actually fairly decent. But whenever they were talking in English, it felt very stiff, kind of robotic in a way. It wasn't really the best. They couldn't really keep up with Jason Statham and Ruby Rose and Rainn Wilson and all of those American actors that we know so well and have had a chance to see kind of break themselves in, I guess. I don't know if that really makes sense, but they're all speaking in English to English speakers, so it doesn't feel as stiff because they're not trying to think about the words as much as a Chinese actor who this is their second language. So I can forgive it for that, but it still kind of took me out of the experience a little bit. As for most of the other like American actors, or I guess Jason Statham and Ruby Rose aren't necessarily American, they were okay. The best actor in this, actually, to me personally, was the little girl. She did a great job. She was very funny. She just said all of her lines. She had perfect timing. She was very enjoyable for me to watch. But Jason Statham was basically a standard Jason Statham. Whatever you would see him do in like Fast and the Furious or some other action movie that he's in. I really liked Ruby Rose. I feel like Ruby Rose is never bad. She's always good in everything I've ever seen her in. She doesn't get to play up her badassness in this as much. She does get a fairly emotional scene at one point, but it wasn't anything for me to be like, oh, that's really great. I really, really loved that. And the rest of the actors, I don't know their names. I will get to Rainn Wilson in a minute because that was probably my favorite part of this entire movie, was what they did with Rainn Wilson's character. So that's a whole other section. But all the other actors, they were kind of just, little standard actors. I don't know what else to tell you. The acting in this is not like out of this world. Again, this is a very B monster movie. You're not going to get the best acting or writing or anything like that. For some of the really great parts that I liked about this, it did have a lot of fairly decent jump scares. Like, I was surprised at how good this movie got me with jump scares. I mean, kind of yes and kind of no. I knew that there probably would be a bunch of jump scares, and I could predict when they were coming, but they still got me pretty good. There was a couple times where I visibly jumped and kind of made a noise, and I know a lot of the people in my theater made a noise and jumped. Like the lady that sat next to me, there was one scene that just, you knew it was coming, but you didn't know the way it was going to happen, and the way it happened just was a huge, massive jump scare, and it was pretty cool. So now for probably my favorite part of this entire movie, and the last thing I really wanted to touch on, Rainn Wilson's character. He was the thing that got me most excited about this in the trailers, because if you have watched my channel for a while, you will know, or if you even follow me on Twitter, I love The Office. I am almost constantly watching that or Friends, and Dwight is probably one of my favorite characters on there. So when I saw that Rainn Wilson was going to be in this, I was like, okay, great. He's going to be the comic relief. He kind of is. He's one of the comic reliefs because this is kind of a funny movie at points. It does get some jokes in. The way they use Rainn Wilson's character for the first, I would say first half at least of this movie, is in a very great way. You are introduced at the very, very top of the movie in a sort of cold open-esque scene to Jason Statham's character. But then soon after that, you are introduced to Rainn Wilson's character. He sort of becomes the audience proxy. He basically is the vessel that the audience sees a lot of what is happening through for this first half of the movie. He says what the audience is thinking. When Jason Statham first gets on to the station or the base that they're on, Rainn Wilson says he looks heroic, he walks heroic, but he has a bit of an attitude. I think that's actually a line from the trailer, if I'm not mistaken. It's basically lines like that, and he says a whole slew of other lines that basically are exactly what you're thinking as an audience member. And I love the fact that they use him as kind of a vessel for the audience to funnel everything that they're thinking through, and as kind of a wink to the audience, like, we know we're a bad movie, we know what we're doing, and kind of just roll with the punches. But I think that kind of sums everything up for the MEG. I thought I would have a little bit more to say because, I mean, honestly, overall, this is a pretty fun movie if you watch it in the theaters or if you have a really big TV. I still am very torn on this because it is such a really bad movie. So if I was giving this a numbers rating, I would definitely give it a 2 out of 5 stars or whatever, 2 out of 5 whatevers, because it's really just a bad movie. But for a rewatchability score, if I just wanted to throw on something really dumb or fun, I probably would reach for this. When I went into it, the first probably 30 minutes of this, I was like, this is probably a movie that I would add to my collection, and maybe I will if it's a $5 bin movie, because it's one of those movies that's just kind of stupid and fun. It does pay a little bit of homage to some movies that are very slightly similar to it, like Jaws, because like Jaws, this is based off of a book called the MEG. I've heard it's not that great of a book, but I've also heard it's a pretty good book, so I don't really know what to think. Rewatchability on this for me is, I would probably rent it. I mean, overall, I would give this a 2 out of 5, but I would rent this on Redbox and watch it again, because it's so much fun, and I maybe would want to go see that scene that I missed while I was in the bathroom again. If you have seen the MEG, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it? Did you have fun? Did you just think it was a really bad movie? Let me know. I would love to know. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all of that fun stuff, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!